Good morning, fourth grade. Today you have lesson 129, and this is a continuation from the last lesson, just more practice, borrowing when the denominators are uncommon. So before borrowing, you have to make sure you even need to borrow, but before you can even do that, you need to check to see if the denominators are the same. If they're not the same, you need to first change them, because if once you change them, that changes the numerator, and therefore you might not actually have to borrow, or you can't subtract anyway until it's the same. So the very, very first step, just as a reminder, is you first have to make the denominators the same. So it says on number 1, write the difference. Remember to change the fraction to common denominators before borrowing. All right, so the first one, we have 3 1/4 minus 1 3/8. So the difference between yesterday's and today's is you now have a digit in the minuend and a digit in the subtrahend. So you're actually going to have to be doing math in your ones place as well, or your tens place. All right. So when I'm talking about my least common multiple between these two, if I wrote out my 4s, I would say 4, 8. Well, then I look and I already see that I would be 8, 16, and I already have a match. So this one is going to stay 1 3/8. So I'm just going to rewrite that one. But this one I have to change. It's going to be 3 and something over 8, because I need to have the same denominator. So now how did I get from 4 to 8? What would I do to change a 4 to an 8? I had to do times 2, so I'm going to do times 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. So now my new fraction is 3 2/8 minus 1 3/8. Okay, now I look though, and I have 2 take away 3. I cannot do that. So I'm going to borrow from my 3, make it a 2. Now that whole number that I just took away would be 8/8. So I'm going to add that whole number on, but written as a fraction. It is still a whole number. Okay, and now my new fraction, my new mixed number, is 2, because that's what my whole number is that I have left. And then I do 8 plus 2, which is 10. So 2 10/8 minus, this stays the same, so I just bring it over, 1 3/8. Okay, I can solve my fraction. 10 take away 3 is 7. My denominator still stays the same at 8, 7/8. And now I do my ones place. So 2 take away 1 is 1. This number cannot be reduced because 7 is a prime number. So I'm going to circle it, and that is the end of that first problem. 1 7/8. Okay, I'm going to skip over, actually, all of them are pretty easy to change the denominators, because all of them, I'm giving you a secret here, all of them you're going to have one number that can stay the same. So I will just go ahead and practice the one that I already highlighted, the 18 minus 13. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is change my denominator so it's the same. So when I write out my 2s, 2, 4, well, guess what? There's already that one. And then my first number, my first multiple of my 4s is 4. So I can make them all into fourths. So my new fraction is going to be 18 1/4 minus 13 And then this is the one that I need to change. So this one's going to change to what? I know it has to end with a 4 in the denominator spot. So how did I get from a 2 to a 4? I had to multiply by 2. So here I'm also going to multiply by 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, which makes sense. 1/2 is 2/4. Okay, so now I have 18 and 1/4 minus 13 and 2/4. But when I look at this, my 1 is not big enough to subtract. So I am going to have to borrow from my 18, and I accidentally crossed out the 18 together, so it makes it 17. I could have also just crossed out the 8, and that's what I should have done, but I don't want to erase it or erase all my work. Okay, so I have 8 that turns into a 7. Okay, but you can do either one. You can make it into 17, or you can make it just to say 7, and then it's still 17. Okay, and if I'm borrowing a 4/4. That's like how I went from 18 to 17. So I'm going to add that 4/4 to my existing fraction. Now my new whole number that I just made was 17. And then I do 1 plus 4 is 5/4 minus 13 and 2/4. So now I have a 5 take away a 2, which I can do now, and it's 3/4. Now I do my ones place, so I do 7 take away 3, and then I do a 1 take away 1, which is 0. So my full answer is 4 3/4, and I cannot reduce that, so I circle that one as my answer. All right, these, I will admit, they take a long time, and that's okay. Some math is fast, other math is not. And it doesn't reflect how good you are at it. It just means that it's a lot of steps. Okay, so take your time on it. Down below, it says circle each prime number. A prime number cannot be divided by anything. The only factors would be like 1 and itself. So 1 times 7 is 7. I cannot make 7 with anything else. Okay, so you're going to circle each prime number. So, for example, can I make 11 by doing anything? Like, can 2 times anything make 11? When I skip count by 3s, do I say 11? If I skip count by 4s, do I say 11? None of those. So I would circle 11. Now, composite numbers are anything else. So if it can be divided by something more than just 1 in itself, then it is composite. Okay? So like for 15, I can do 1 times 15, but I can also do 3 times 5. So then that makes it composite. Okay? So 18, I can make it by doing 6 times 3. And I can do like 2 times 9. I can do 1 times 18, so that's composite. All right, and finally, the last thing I'm going to go over with you is it just says write true or false in each blank. This is practicing your divisibility rules. So the number 226 is divisible by 9. So if you need to look up your divisibility rules in your interactive notebook, please do, to remember what 9 is. So you're going to just write true or false. So for example, let me just go to C. This is the easier one. I don't want to spoil them for you. I actually want you to learn these and look them up. 10, if we skip count by 10, well, anything that has 10 is going to end in a 0. And it can only end in a 0 because 10, 20, 30, 40, 500, 510, 520. I'm counting by tens. So this one for C would be true. And you do need to write the word true or the word false. We're not just writing T and F. Those look too much alike. Okay. The rest of the page is review stuff. So please go ahead and do that on your own. All right. Good luck. And if you have any questions, please raise your hands.